Broads Media.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome on into episode 2 of Schmoozed, and we are following a legend, Mark Zumoff, with another legend, Derrick Gunn. Thank you so much for joining. Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing?
Look, man, if I'm following Mark Zumoff, I'm honored that I'm your second guest behind a true legend. Now, when you talk about me, you're talking about infamous, not famous, infamous, okay? So the fact that you chose me, wait, you couldn't get anybody else? Is that what happened?
Yeah, nobody answered my emails. That's what it was.
Oh, my goodness, man. Man, just took me down like 12 notches, brother.
Wow. Funny games. Look, jack of all trades, right? Grill master, fisherman. I see all the pictures. Host of Gun on One. So you're doing a little bit of everything right now. What's it like right now for Derrick Gunn?
Well, you know what? I've told so many people who have asked me that question. I said, you know, when you're forced to reinvent yourself, it's amazing what you can do when you have to. And the fact that so many people have reached out to me over the past year and asked me to do certain things has been a blessing to me. When I decided to do Gun on One, you know, I had to make sure I surrounded myself with the right people, not knowing a lot about podcasts, although I had to tell my wife, yes, dear, you were right and I was wrong, because last year my wife, well, not just last year, but 2 years ago, my wife and my former agent had been telling me, you need to do a podcast. Well, as you know, when you have that parachute security blanket of a full-time job, you keep saying, oh, yeah, I'll get to it. You don't do it, you know. But out of necessity, I said, okay, now's the time to, you know, invest in me, you know. So that's what I did last year, and Gun on One took off. I was also working for CBS 3 of 97.5. Adam Kaplan and Jeff Mosher's Inside the Birds network as well. So, you know, a lot of things just came in at one time, and, you know, it was really a blessing. And it's been fun. It's been fun being a businessman, building your own brand, so to speak, learning the ins and outs. So it's been a lot of fun and a great educational tool as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, no doubt. I'm in the process of building the brand as well. A lot of moving
Yeah.
parts, but it's a journey and it's great. And so is Gun on One, by the way. So we'll put all the links in the description of this so everyone can go to those platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify,
Yeah.
YouTube, all of it. It's always a fantastic listen. And so how about this? I see are you drinking coffee? Because I'm such a
Yes.
I'm an addict, right? So I have a show literally called Coffee with Broads. I drink 35 cups a day. I'm already on cup 3. It's 11. So my question to you is, how do you drink your coffee?
You know what? My wife, my one daughter, and my son, and one of my son-in-laws who live with us, they are coffee connoisseurs. I am a novice at coffee. You know, they like the coffee black. You know, to me, I'd look at coffee and I've always said, you know, it tastes like dirt water to me. And my wife says, you know what, you're not allowed to drink coffees. So my wife has like 3 or 4 different types of Keurig machines set up, her and my son-in-law. So, you know, I drink like 1 cup in the morning. I drink it with a, you know, a little half and half, you know, and they said, basically, I'm tainting the flavor of coffee. I said, what flavor? It all tastes the same. Now, the one thing that I really so I have maybe 1 cup a day, you know, maybe 1 cup a day. The only time I get excited about coffee is in the fall when Wawa comes out with their pumpkin spice coffee, and my family looks at me like this. Really? Really? Pumpkin spice? Really? I said, it's a refreshing taste. I love the aroma. I put a little cream in it, and I'm good. And really? Pumpkin spice? Really? So, you know, I'm a novice compared to you, man. I have friends that will drink 1 or 2 pots of coffee a day. I don't know how anybody could do that, because I'd be shaking like this, man. I'd have a nervous twitch all day if I did that. I can't do it.
I'm not going to tell you I don't have the twitch, and you know, there's times where I can't stop moving, but for some reason I continue to do it. The pumpkin spice, though, I will agree. There's something to be said about fall, September, October.
Yes.
It's dark at 4 o'clock. I actually like that. You have your cup of Joe sitting right in your hands. Oh,
yes.
It's beautiful. And you know, to a degree, that's a good segue to football. But I'm not going to go there yet because I have a couple more questions before we get.
All right, but I'm going to tell you this. You know, when you mentioned fall. When people, you know, people who talk about, oh, I love fall, I love the trees turning all these bright colors, and I tell people, shut up, you know, because I hate fall. I hate fall. You know why? Because it's an indication that winter is right around the corner. You know, I love spring into summer. I'm a summer guy. It's 100 degrees. I'm happy. Anything below 65, I'm miserable. I'm from the Midwest. I'm from Wisconsin. There's a reason I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and don't live there. I don't care if I ever see snow again in my life, okay? All right. So, people are like, oh, fall, the colors, the beauty of, you know what? Kiss dirt. I don't care about fall.
Well, see, I'm a little bit opposite because I lived up in Vermont for a couple years when I was pursuing my hockey career, and I loved it. It would be -30. I'm walking outside. My hands are sticking to the door, and I'm like, I love this. I'm sick in the head. I don't know. Something's wrong.
Yes, I can tell. Yes, yeah, I agree. Something is wrong with you. I agree.
All right. So a couple of questions I want to get to because, this show is called Schmoozed for a reason. We get into sports, but, we schmooze a little bit. I'm curious. I want to get to know you. Music taste, whether it's favorite band, favorite artist, favorite genre. If you're getting in the car and you're plugging in some music, what is your go-to?
You know what? I really don't have a go-to. I love a little bit of everything, dude. I listen to R&B. I listen to a lot of the old school rap. A lot of this new school rap, I can't listen to a lot of it. I like the old school.
How old school we going here?
We're talking about Sugar Hill Gang, LL Cool J, Houdini, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, guys like that, man. There's a few artists out there today that are okay, but you can't understand half the lyrics. Number one, it's all about the beat. I'll listen to a beat. I love a little country music. I listen to a lot of Christian music. So I jump around. Whatever I'm in the mood for that particular time. So I don't have simply a go-to playlist. I'm a man of many talents, many tastes, my brother.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I definitely am. Yeah. I follow the hip hop game pretty well. But for me, my era was the early 2000s growing up. So, today I like the Jay-Z, the Kanye in his prime.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sitting on this Donda album every single day now, waiting for this to drop. And I do my respect to the elder crew though, like Big L and all that. I'm big into it. I'm a big album guy. I like because the way I explain it is, I'm not going to listen to I'm not going to read a book and go to chapter 7 and then not read the rest of the book or before. When I listen to an album, this is a project that's supposed to be a story. So the other day, I'm going back and listening to Missy Elliott. I'm like, wow, this is you got to appreciate what got you to this time.
Right, man. I agree. No question about it, man. So that's why, I hang out with so many different people. I'm like, who's this? Who's this? I know very few artist names. I remember beats, and stuff, but I remember very few artist names, but I will say this. When push comes to shove, ain't no town like Motown, brother. Go back to the 70s and listen to Motown. Oh, man, Stevie Wonder, Temptations. You can't beat the early Jackson 5. All that's to see. That's where I am, man. See, so I'm old. I'm an OG. Let's call it what it is. I'm an OG, brother. I like the old stuff. And what's funny is a lot of the older musics you still hear today when you go to malls, mini marts, and TV commercials. They either take the beats or take the words or take the whole clips from the song and use them in a lot of commercials today, man. So that music is historic, man. That's what music was all about.
I agree completely. Not only that, even samples. Some of these kids are listening to songs that have no idea that the original sample and the beat is from the 70s, from the 80s.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's all they do. All right. Football. Football's upon us. Training camp is here. Jalen Hurts, Zach Ertz. There's all this drama coming around all over the place, which is never going to stop. I'll toss you a layup. All right. Nick Sirianni. Not that I'm coming here with the hard-hitting journalism, but there you go. Nick Sirianni, young coaching staff. Just your overall thoughts on the change with the youth of this core, if you will, coaching-wise.
Well, a younger coach movement has been upon us for a few years now in the National Football League. Nick Sirianni had a great mentor in Frank Reich, who obviously had a lot of success here with Carson Wentz in 2017. Frank Reich endorses him. I trust Frank Reich's assessment of a young coach. The Eagles obviously had to move in a different direction when things didn't work out with Doug Peterson and Carson Wentz. If Nick Sirianni was as instrumental in the Colts offense as Frank Reich said he was, I'm excited about what he can do with this young nucleus, because this Eagles team right now is like a daytime soap opera. We don't know what to expect. New head coach. One of his coaches is 27 years old. He's younger than some of the players he's coaching. Is Jalen Hurts the quarterback of the present and future? Who's going to be your left tackle? Who's the man opposite Darius Slay? Will the linebacking situation be any better? Can Lane Johnson and Brandon Brooks stay healthy on the right side? So can his young receiving core, step up and mature quick enough to make this team a legitimate competitor week in and week out? So many storylines. So, I know a lot of people out there are negative about Sirianni taking over the job. People are already talking about we expect him to fall on his face. You can't say that. You don't know what happened. If you go back to Doug Peterson's tenure, after Doug Peterson had a losing season that first year, heading into 2017, his second year, there were a lot of people that still wanted Doug Peterson fired. And all what Doug Peterson did was, said, I'll show you people. I won a Super Bowl with a passed-up team. When you lost a Hall of Fame, future Hall of Fame left tackle, the franchise quarterback, one of the greatest return specialists, utility men of all time, and Darren Sproles, and they still found a way to win a Super Bowl against the hated empire, the New England Patriots. So, I tell people, you know what? Be patient. Be patient. Now, I'm like a lot of people, because of so many personnel changes and new direction, and you look at their schedule, especially the first 4 games coming out of the gate, I expect this team to take weeks to evolve, and I expect this team in the final analysis to have a losing record. Now, that losing record could be 8-9, so they could surprise some people along the way. But if this team is growing and maturing in the right direction, I think this fan base will have a little bit more patience and be excited about what's to come, especially with 3 draft picks or whatever Howie Roseman may do in 2022.
Yeah, that's basically where I'm at. Set me up after the season's over for me to go, okay, there's something here. What is the next step?
Right.
Leave us optimistic for the future.
Right.
Now, here's my concern on Nick Sirianni. Now, just based off of press conferences, there's only so much you could take. There's obviously the high energy, and it's a lot different than what we're used to. My fear is if something goes wrong early adversity-wise, there's not that one veteran. If Jim Caldwell was your offensive coordinator and things were to go wrong, there's that mind in there that I just feel a little bit more comfortable on, and, never calling plays before. And this doesn't mean he's going to be bad by any means. It's just if there's adversity early, how will he handle it? It's just a question I have because, we're different here when it comes to media attention and fan base and sports talk radio, and never calling plays before on this type of stage. Add that to the mix. Will the locker room go, all right, we're 5 games in. Is this message working? I don't know. I'm a little skeptical, but I'm not willing to go overboard until I see him, because I question Doug Peterson. Guy won a Super Bowl. Andy Reid was a nobody before the Eagles picked him up as head coach. So that's just my one concern.
Well, that's understandable. You know what? But there are a lot of coaches around the National Football League, especially younger coaches, who didn't call the plays, who had never been a head coach before. You look at Matt LaFleur in Green Bay. You look at the success he's having. You look at Cliff Kingsbury with the Arizona Cardinals. They're still an evolving team, but they're a very competitive team. You look what Sean McVay did out, with the Rams. So you got to give them time. Give them time to grow, and let's see what happens. When you talk about what he's up against, number one, he was in a much smaller media market in Indianapolis. Now you come here where you have 65, 70 media in your face every day at practice, putting microphones in your face every day, obviously at a little bit more distance with the COVID protocols. You come out of the gate, your first 4 games at Atlanta, San Francisco, at Dallas, and Kansas City. That's a murderer's row right there coming out of the gate. And I think we will have a true gauge of what this team and this coaching staff is or isn't after those first 4 games. They'll be lucky to be 2-2 coming out of those. If they're 2-2 coming out of those, you sit back and say, okay, it's going to be an interesting ride from this point on. But, if they come out 1-3, 0-4, as you know, you've been here a long time, this fan base is going to rain down the negative criticism and the boos and the frustration, and understandably so. But again, I say in the bigger picture, for me, 2021 is not so much about the W's as it is about this team growing in the right direction as a coaching staff, young players growing and maturing in the right direction. So what you're building around for 2022 and beyond.
I couldn't agree more. Now, when you look at Jalen Hurts, what are you looking for specifically? Because there's a lot of conversation about when you look back at the tape at that 4-game sample size. He'd leave the pocket early, maybe not go through all the progressions, and he'd run. Maybe that's a product of knowing how banged up the offensive line was.
Right.
And with the healthy right side with Brandon Brooks and Lane Johnson, he might feel more comfortable. Running the ball is probably going to happen a lot more with Miles Sanders. I would hope so. So there's a lot of elements. But what are you looking for when dissecting just Jalen Hurts?
Well, you know what? If I'm Jalen Hurts and I'm standing on the sideline, and I watched the franchise quarterback Carson Wentz get beat up like a pinata last year, and when you had 13 different offensive line combinations over 13 weeks, I'm a little jittery as well. So I'm like the rabbit in the bush. You shake the stick, and I'm coming out of the bush in a hurry. So maybe that was a part of the equation. I mean, you look, he came out of the gate. He almost beat Green Bay. He turned around, he beat New Orleans, and then he struggled the last 2 games. That's the nature of a young quarterback. Once a team and once the league has enough footage on you to see what you're doing and look at your strengths and weaknesses, they'll try to take those strengths away. And obviously, he struggled the last couple of games. Now he's got to learn an entirely new system with a new coach. Now, this is a coach, if he's smart enough, he streamlines his offensive style to cater to Jalen Hurts' strengths, whatever that case may be. And so I expect Jalen to be more poised in the pocket. Nick Sirianni, I will tell you this, he wants to rely on that running game, and he wants to rely on the screen game a lot as well. If those things are effective, it takes a lot of pressure off a young quarterback. If they're not effective, well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Jalen Hurts and how much leash he's given before Nick Sirianni pulls that leash and probably talks about inserting Joe Flacco, although I hope we never get to that point. So hopefully he's matured enough. Everything I've heard about Jalen Hurts up to this point, dedicated during the offseason, up early, working out with the receivers on his team. Jalen Hurts is a student of the game. He takes it seriously. He's committed, dedicated. Now let's see if that translates into him now improving his game to that next level as a young quarterback in the National Football League.
How concerned should we be with this right side of the line, though? Like, they're getting up there in age. See, I feel there's still left. There's still some left in the tank out of Lane Johnson and Brandon Brooks. But there's no denying that they are hitting that age where it starts to go in that other direction, and there's a correlation between what we've seen. Now, if there's anyone who can handle it, it seems to be Brandon Brooks, who can come back within 2 weeks of an Achilles pop, it seems like. This guy's unbelievable. Right. But, look, they're getting up there in age, and I do feel that with Stoutland and the track record of this organization, they find linemen, whether that's a Jack Driscoll, a Herbig, a Mailata. If there's one position where I feel, even though last year it was a bit of a disaster, but there's one position I feel they can draft and develop to kind of look for the future. Dickerson, a controversial pick, but they do a good job in that area. How concerned should we be for that right side, though?
Well, hold your breath. And I say if. Now, if to me is one of the biggest words in the dictionary. If Lane Johnson and Brandon Brooks stay healthy, if Jason Kelce stays healthy, say Amalo stays healthy, and if they iron out the situation at left tackle, this will be one of the top 5 offensive lines in the National Football League. I think Lane Johnson and Brandon Brooks, if healthy and can stay healthy, arguably the best right tackle, right guard tandem in the National Football League. But again, it's a big if. Both are coming off significant injuries. Now, obviously, with Brandon Brooks' case, he's had a lot longer to rehab. He's ready to go. I had Lane Johnson recently on my Gun on One podcast. He said he's ready to go. No limitations whatsoever. He had the surgery, taking care of everything, got that ankle cleaned up. He's ready to go. Now the question mark is, can they finish what they start? If they do, that's a huge burden lifted from the likes of a Jalen Hurts. And if that offensive line stays intact, I think that is the key to this whole team in terms of being competitive and possibly winning games. If that offensive line can stay healthy, I think the running game will be effective. The screen game will be effective. The pocket will hold up better in terms of protecting Jalen Hurts to give him time to find his young receivers down the field to throw the football. That's a huge key if that offensive line stays healthy.
Yeah, I feel like last year we were just so brainwashed by week 8 to forget how serious it is when you don't have those guys in there, because it was just one big circle of guys cycling through. And, the one thing that's fascinating with me right now with training camp is Zach Ertz. Now, when he reported, this is just my gut and my personal feel at that time, was this is nothing other than I don't feel like getting fined a lot of money by not showing up. But as I alluded to, training camp starts today, and I'm seeing all these reports that, hey, he's getting the ball thrown to him, and they're doing a lot of work with him. And, I just thought, look, there's really nothing to this. It's just I don't want to get fined, but maybe I'm wrong. Is there something to this?
The one thing that I have the utmost respect for Zach Ertz about is he does not want to be a distraction in any way, shape, or form. He understands at this point, even if he's not happy with the money situation, that, it's about the team first. He doesn't want to be that distraction, and he wants to get out there and play. If nothing more, if he has to stay here and play the entire season, then it'll benefit him in 2022, maybe somewhere else. If he can't come to an agreement with the Philadelphia Eagles, Zach is getting up there in age as well, but I do still think he can be a very productive tight end in the National Football League. You look at the number of tight ends around the league that are 30 plus in the league right now, and they're still very productive. Zach, as frustrated as he might be, Zach is going to come out. He's not going to cause any rifts. He's not going to be the focal point of attention. It's not about him. He just wants to fit in and see how he survives and thrives in a completely new offense. And if Zach Ertz stays healthy, I think that is huge in terms of being with him and Dallas Goedert being safety valves for Jalen Hurts in terms of the dink and dunk game. I've always admired that about Zach. Obviously he was frustrated, lost significant time last year due to injuries. Things didn't work out for him the way he wanted them to financially, but he's back on the football field. Let's face it. He doesn't want to lose any money. No player knows how long their career is going to last in the National Football League. And, if I'm a Zach Ertz, I'm thinking, why am I giving that money away? Whatever the money is, why would I give that money away? I still have a job in the National Football League. And who's to say that the Eagles are not showcasing him in some way to possibly trade him before the trade deadline? That could possibly happen as well. So obviously, from a management standpoint, okay, we got Zach Ertz in here. Let's see what this offense looks like with an accomplished pass catcher like a Zach Ertz. And if it's not working out, but he's still healthy, let's see what we can get for him to build our draft nucleus for 2022.
I think it's fair to say when it comes to Howie Roseman that 90% of the fans are ready to move on from him. And I feel like I'm in the outlier here. Now, I don't want to die on this hill because I am aware that good things come to an end eventually. And this has been so ugly and turmoil that maybe we're hitting that point. But all I ever know, and I'm 26 years old, all I ever know in this Jeffrey Lurie era with Howie Roseman is success. Is success. All I know is some sort of success. Now, that doesn't mean the Lombardi Trophy. We did see that, but the Andy Reid era, McNabb. Every year we enter a season going, we're going to be competitive. And even this year, the same fans that said they're not going to win one game next year and they have 5 years of rebuilding have already changed their mind of they can win 8 games this year. So is this Howie Roseman era and this recent run as bad as what some of the fans feel like? Am I crazy to feel somewhat confident in Lurie and Roseman based off of their track record? I'm just confused on how to feel about it.
I think a lot of people are, including a lot of us in the media. Again, I go back to one of my initial statements because we don't know what to expect from this team. But you're right about one thing, and I've said this time and time again on my Gun on One podcast and other media outlets. You look at Jeffrey Lurie's track record, he's made some decisions where we've all said, who, what, why, and it turned out, the Andy Reid era, they were one of the more dominant teams in the Andy Reid era, except for the latter couple of years. You look and people thought Chip Kelly was going to be this boy wonder of the National Football League. He took a 4-12 team and turned it around and made them 10-6 and took them to the playoffs in his first year. He had back-to-back 10-6 seasons before he lost his mind and lost his job in that third year. And they bring in a Doug Peterson, another guy, didn't call many plays, never been a head coach. And all he did was win this franchise's first Super Bowl. So let's give Jeffrey and Howie a little bit of leeway before we come raining down on him. Now, Howie admits that he's made a lot of mistakes in terms of drafting in past years. But, some players have emerged. Obviously he found a good quarterback in Carson before Carson went south. You look at Miles Sanders. Now he has Devonta Smith. So there's some good young players there that have to still be developed. And let's see what happens. We can't say it's as bad as we think it is right now because it's only early in the training camp. And I don't judge anything on preseason games because we've seen teams go 4-0 in a preseason and end up the bottom of the barrel of their division. We've seen teams go winless in preseason, win their divisions, and go deep into the playoffs. So I don't put a whole lot into W's and L's in a preseason. I'm looking more so at player A, player B matched up, and you only see them on a limited basis. So let's sit back and wait and watch this thing unfold. Howie knows he's under the microscope. This is a significant year in the tenure of Howie Roseman. Did he make more right moves than wrong moves? Back in April, we thought this defense was going to be a sieve because of what happened to this defense in 2020. Well, he got a little of this. He got a little of that. He went out and got Ryan Kerrigan, who wasn't a starter down in D.C. in his last year. He was a rotational player, but Ryan Kerrigan is a good edge rusher. The linebacking core is a mess. He goes out and gets Eric Wilson, who was a tackling machine for the Vikings. He gets Anthony Harris, who was a very solid safety with the Vikings as well. And then recently he has a cornerback in Steve Nelson. Steve Nelson didn't have a great 2020, but Steve Nelson is a decent cornerback, better than what they already had in camp. Is he the perfect complement to Darius Slay? We're going to find out.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm kind of getting the goosebumps seeing all the media members throw their sarcastic tweets out there. When you go on Twitter and it's 50,000 different pictures of Jalen Hurts or Devontae Smith, you know it's coming. It's about that time.
Right.
Now, as we wind down, I just want to throw a little curveball your way because this is a hot topic, and I need to get your thoughts on this.
Right.
Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
What do you do with Ben Simmons? Is it time? You can't bring him back, right?
I think it's time for them to relocate Ben Simmons, if for nothing else, for the mental mindset of Ben Simmons alone. For this organization to ask Ben to come back here, the way he's been chastised, obviously he brought a lot of it on himself. I still have visions of him standing under the basket and not taking that wide open dunk and passing the ball back out. That will forever be etched in the minds of Philadelphia 76ers sports fans. And I think it's time for Ben to get a fresh start. What can the 76ers get for him? Obviously, because of his play throughout the playoffs, I think his stock has gone down a little bit. But we keep hearing all these stories that there's a lot of interest in a Ben Simmons. And as we know, a lot of times a player that doesn't flourish in one environment, you send him somewhere else, and all of a sudden he's not that same player anymore. And you're thinking, why couldn't we get that player here? A lot of times it's just the situation they're in, the scheme that they're in. Maybe it's not conducive to a style of play. But I think if the Sixers can get something decent in terms of a trade, whether players or draft picks, you got to move Ben Simmons on from this organization.
I'll leave you with this because one thing that scares me after watching that NBA Finals run, I watched, and this guy's not even super special. He's just a very good player, but he was knocking them down in big moments. Chris Middleton. And then I'm watching Devin Booker. You need someone who can create their own shot for 5 minutes, back and forth. And I love Embiid, but I don't think it's his fault. I think it's the nature of being a center. You need a perimeter player who can do that as well. Ben and his inability to shoot, I love Embiid, and he's going to carry us very, very, very far. But you need that piece that can operate out by the perimeter and break down a defender one-on-one for 5, 6, 7 possessions in a row and know that you have a chance to score. And that's one thing I'm really looking for Daryl Morey when you think about moving on from Ben. What type of player can do that?
Well, if you watch the playoffs, look at the multitude of teams in the playoffs. Brooklyn, Milwaukee, Clippers, Phoenix. They all had assassins from beyond the perimeter, not just one, but several. And that's what the 76ers have to do. They have to find a couple of guys that can consistently light it up from beyond the perimeter. You can't rely on Joel Embiid to be that guy. Now, you're seeing more and more 7-footers shooting threes, left and right. Look at Brooks Lopez with Milwaukee. This guy, he guy's like he has concrete in his feet, but if you leave him open, he was deadly from the corner all playoffs long. So you've got to find that guy that can consistently, or guys that can consistently open up your interior game. And hopefully, and let's face it, there's a lot of young guys in the game today that can shoot the three. You just have to find the perfect fit for your organization and for Doc Rivers' style of basketball.
D-Gun, thank you so much for joining me today. I want you to plug your pod. I demand all my subscribers to go hit that subscribe button on your show as well. But go ahead and plug where you can find your podcast, Gun on One.
Yeah, man, Gun on One has been doing great. You can find Gun on One, the podcast, wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Anchor, anywhere you get your podcast. Gun on One is out there. My most recent podcasts are Lane Johnson and Brian Baldinger. great conversations with those guys, not just about football, but other topics as well, as including, life as well. So, thank you to everybody out there who has already listened to Gun on One on a regular basis. And thank you to those that will continue to listen. But, yeah, we have a lot of fun with it, man. You just never know who's going to pop up week in and week out on Gun on One.
I love it. I'll get all those links, throw them in the subscription so there's an easy access to it. And once
appreciate
again,
it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for hopping on. I really do appreciate that as well.
Well, thank you for having me as your number 2 guest on your new venture. Success to you, my man.
Thank you so much.